Good afternoon, everyone. It's Pastor Ben. It's Wednesday, midweek, and so I wanted to give an update as we all continue to work through this COVID-19 situation. You all have seen by now the executive order that went out from Tarrant County last night. I trust, if not, you can find it on the Tarrant County website. But the Tarrant County judge has said all persons currently residing within the incorporated and unincorporated territory of Tarrant County shall stay at their place of residence except as allowed by this order. And that second part is important. So what does this mean? What this order does mean is that we need to lay low. What this order does mean, and this was specified by those who wrote it in the press, was no dinner dates, no more play dates. It means that as of today, we really need to stay home as much as possible. But what this does not mean is that we can't still leave our house to go to the store or to help someone else. In fact, specified in the executive order are categories of essential travel, like going to buy supplies or going to the doctor or going to get medicine, and even going out to help other people that are more at risk. That's specifically allowed in this order. And so we need to continue to serve our neighbors, to serve our friends, to serve the body here at Eden Road while being very careful and not going out and getting together simply for fun. After today, to be good citizens, we need to work together to follow this order to the best of our abilities. So how do we continue to respond to this situation? As our government is saying, hey, we need to really buckle down for another little while, how do we continue to think about this and how do we respond? Well, I want to read to you an example first from Scripture. And this is the example of Hezekiah, the king of Judah. It's about 701 BC. So 21 years earlier, the king of Assyria had already come and completely subjugated the northern kingdom of Israel. So now, 20 years later, Assyria is marching again, and they're coming straight for Judah, and Hezekiah knows it. It's an impending threat, impending doom, and so how does he respond, and what is he trusting in? And I want you to see the balance here between doing all that he can on his end, but trusting God completely. So 2 Chronicles 32, verse 1, after these things and these acts of faithfulness, Sennacherib, king of Assyria, came and invaded Judah and encamped against the fortified cities, thinking to win them for himself. And when Hezekiah saw that Sennacherib had come and intended to fight against Jerusalem, he planned with his officers and his mighty men to stop the water of the springs that were outside the city, and they helped him. A great many people were gathered, and they stopped all the springs and the brook that flowed through the land, saying, why should the kings of Assyria come and find much water? So the first thing they did was they all worked together, and they worked very hard to prevent this coming problem. They went out and stopped up the springs and the wells so that an invading army would find it hard to camp long term in their wilderness. Let's keep reading. Verse 5, he set to work resolutely and built up all the wall that was broken down and raised towers upon it. And outside it he built another wall. They strengthened their ability to protect themselves. Verse 6, he set combat commanders over the people and gathered them together to him in the square at the gate of the city and spoke encouragingly to them, saying, after they had done all that they could, working together, working hard, Hezekiah gathers the people together and he says to them, be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid or dismayed before the king of Assyria and all the horde that is with him, for there are more with us than with him. This next verse is very important because Hezekiah states what they're trusting, and he says, with him, the king of Assyria, is an arm of flesh, but with us is the Lord our God to help us and to fight our battles. And the people took confidence from the words of Hezekiah, king of Judah. I want to say much the same thing to us. We need to follow the example of Hezekiah, we need to work together and put in a lot of effort to do what we can to stop the spread of this virus. We do that by following the executive order from the county judge, doing our part in social distancing, not getting together anymore just for fun, even in numbers of 10 or less, as we had been told. But now it's time for us to do our part and to work together in the ways that we can to prevent this. But as we do, we're not going to put our faith or our confidence in ourselves or our own ability to do anything. Like Hezekiah, we need to point each other back to God. We need to understand that when we have worked hard on our end simply to be faithful and obedient, we don't then trust in ourselves or our own ability. We trust squarely in God, who is working out His will and who is protecting us. So I want to give you another example. And this, if the first example was from 700 years before Jesus, the second example comes from 500 years ago with Martin Luther, the Reformer. Because in Martin Luther's day, the Black Plague had come into Luther's own town. And my friend Brent Osterberg sent me this quote from an article by Curtis Solomon, writing for the Biblical Counseling Coalition. And he says this: in his letter to Reverend Dr. John Hess, with the subject, Whether One May Flee from a Deadly Plague, Luther wrote the following helpful counsel. Here's how Luther will address the virus that's coming into his town, a virus that was serious and deadly. Luther said, I shall ask God mercifully to protect us. Then I shall fumigate, help purify the air, administer medicine, and take it. I shall avoid places and persons where my presence is not needed, in order not to become contaminated, and thus perchance inflict and pollute others, and so cause their death as a result of my negligence. Martin Luther, the Reformer, wrote about social distancing. But he continues on, if God should wish to take me, He will surely find me, and I have done what He has expected of me, so I'm not responsible for either my own death or the death of others. If my neighbor needs me, however, I shall not avoid place or person, but will go freely as stated above. See, this is such a God-fearing faith, Luther writes, because it is neither brash nor foolhardy and does not tempt God. In short, Martin Luther said he was doing exactly what this executive order from Tarrant County encourages us to do. Stay home. Take the measures that we can take. Wash our hands a lot. Practice social distancing. And go out when necessary. Go out to help neighbors. Go out when we can help others in specific ways while still being careful. And Luther says that's the way that we trust in God while doing our part. So how then do we respond? We need to take precautions. We need to pray. I think that we need to pray more than usual. I think that at meals we need to lift up the situation. That's what we've been doing as a family. Every time we pause to pray, we start by mentioning this situation. We ask God for protection. We ask Him to protect our first responders on the front lines. We ask Him to protect the elderly and others who are more maybe at risk. And so let's continue to pray to a sovereign God and ask Him for His help and ask that the scientists and researchers would find a vaccine quickly. Continue reaching out to others to check in. I have a lot of people saying, who do I help? How do I help? But I don't have as many people yet saying, hey, I'm out of supplies. But we still need to reach out and check in. Text people directly. Give them a call. Send them an email. Let them know you're thinking about them and that you're willing to help and that you're praying for them. Maybe pray with someone on the phone if they sound a little worried. And we need to continue to worship. And so we're going to worship again this Sunday remotely. We live streamed last week. I want to thank a lot of you that wrote in helpful feedback. And so we have met this week and discussed a lot of little changes that we can make to make the streamed service hopefully a little better for all of us involved. We're going to be adding Sunday school for kids, grades 1st to 6th grade this week. We're going to do that through the platform Zoom. And so Susan and Greg will be leading that. Watch for an email or especially check the church's Facebook. We're going to be adding some words to the slides, Lord willing. We're playing with this now and testing it so that it'll be a little easier to sing along at home with the live stream. And so I just wanted to check in, and I wanted to encourage you all to say, let's continue to trust God. Let's know that He is on His throne. Let's continue to pray. Let's follow this executive order from Tarrant County, and let's continue to reach out and serve those that we can. And so thank you. We love you. We're praying for all of you. Please call me or text me or reach out to anyone in the church if you need help of any kind. There's no reason for anyone in the church to go without any essential supplies during this time, and we're committed to making sure that we do help. And so let us know if you have any needs, and continue to pray. And we will be reaching out before Sunday with some more links for the live stream and other resources. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.